Hey folks, we're live. I've decided to not do this will be a little bit of an unusual episode. Not too unusual, but a little bit of an unusual episode. First of all, I would like to say welcome to everybody who is here instead of doing that other thing that some people are doing. So that's very awesome of you to join me here. So this is the sort of rescheduled Sunday night Valentine's Day stream because we're not streaming on Valentine's Day. So remember, this replaces the stream tomorrow. Also remember that we will be streaming next week live from Winterfest. That may also be an unusual stream, but the week after that we will be back to the regular counterclipping show format. So this is the counterclipping show for February 13th, 2022. We don't have a formal topic for the evening. And, you know, I didn't pick one mostly because I didn't want to blow a good topic on a night that I felt like there might be, you know, it could have been just me, right? So no sense picking a really awesome and provocative topic for the sake of you know, three people that might show up. But I see that we are already doing better than that. So thanks, everybody. So I don't, you know, so to give you my perspective on the other thing, and I've said this before, but for those who didn't catch it or forgot about it or whatever, I'm from Cleveland. So the NFL was ruined for me some time ago. Really, not because the Browns are crappy, but because the Browns left. So, and of course we have an international audience here at Ardwulf's Lair, so there's probably plenty of people who are not in the U.S. that don't care about the other thing. Our channel of the week is Hissy Cat Studios. They're linked in the video description, so please do check them out. So they are designing a Solitaire wargame, and they are vlogging their way through that process. So that is pretty cool content, in my opinion. So go give them some love. And I apologize to Hissy Cat Studios for giving them the off week. But I also didn't want to like skip a channel of the week and not pick somebody up. All right. So we are having a little bit of trouble with colors here, I think. No, that goes in there. That goes in there. Okay. So we are drinking, once again, Tamnavulin Double Cask. Still pretty good. Yeah, we ain't finishing it tonight. And I've actually been drinking for the last hour or two in a very relaxed way. So, and we are clipping the brand new Third World War from Compass Games, a game I've been super excited about to the extent that I bought it like 2 years or whatever it was ago. Might have been longer than that. And it showed up a couple days ago. So we're clipping it tonight. The unboxing video will be out on Thursday. I think it showed up on Friday, and I thought about releasing the video on Friday, and I ended up not. So just because I have a schedule, right? So there's that. So let's say hello to Bayonet Brant, Charles Latora, Joe Okabayashi, John Longshore, Sean Tono, Daniel Silverthorne, Carl Creeder from the Wargame Bootcamp, Joe Perez, James Whitmer, Nicholas Oliver, welcomed to the channel, Matthew Wallhead, Fucko, Strelnikov, Jeff Beeler, Michael Mellon, Paul O'Farrell, Brian Jarvis, and Jason W. Depending on how crappy the other thing is, people might tune in midway through it too. So we'll see how we do. I consider the current number, which there's like two different numbers that YouTube is showing me. One is 22 and one is 30. I don't know how many people are actually here, but thanks for coming. So if you want to help support the channel, please do give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Blah 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 that I say every time, and the links to the Patreon and stuff in the video description. So next weekend, and on Monday night specifically, and I think for the Tuesday night stream too, we will be streaming live from Winterfest in Sandusky, Ohio. I could dance for the halftime show, but really nobody wants to see that. So I do tune in for the after show movie trailers that pop up on this day every year, but at the same time, we're gonna flag this thing. Somebody's playing Russian Civil War. So we're gonna check that up. The only trailer I'm like aware of that's coming is there's something for Moon Knight and there's something for the Amazon Lord of the Rings show. So Doug Sunset, welcome back. Yeah, I mean, often it's not a very good game. So I figure if you're interested in that, you're going to be watching that, and some people probably have me on audio and that on video, and that's cool too. I don't care. So we are going to proceed as normal, and then we can talk about how egotistical I am that I felt comfortable enough to schedule a show opposite the Super Bowl. So cool. Yeah, I already saw the Moon Knight thing. They put it on YouTube a couple hours ago. I already saw it. It's very short and shows us very little. So, Skid Wister, first-time viewer. First of all, welcome to the stream. Please remember to subscribe. We do have super chats on, so if anybody wants to throw me some mojo, please feel free. Steve the NPC, howdy from Colorado. And we might be talking about some project work that I'm doing here tonight too. But before we get to that, we're going to at least finish clipping the first sheet, which I'll be finished in like 3 minutes. Iggy Cricktal, Chad Kennedy, welcome back. So, yeah, like I said, from Cleveland, caring is a great recipe to die of a heart attack. So, no thanks. Whipping up a pair of whiskeys from Patchwork Pictures. That sounds like a fantastic idea. Actually, one of these days, I'm going to do gin and tonics, because I usually have limes in the house, and I did, and then I forgot to make the gin and tonics. But then again, if I there's a chance I might drink 6 gin and tonics. That could be an issue, right? So we're sticking with the Scotch in keeping with my typical policy of, honestly, I haven't made a cocktail in 15 years, so there's that. John Longshore saw Dune, very pretty, very long and drawn out. That's true. That's not wrong. Very curious to see the second half. Since it's the second half where you kind of get to the point of the book. Gin. I like gin, but, for gin and tonics, or even gin martinis, but you got to have good booze for a martini, especially, whether it's a vodka martini or a gin martini. It's important to have good booze. If you make a vodka martini with Paramount or something, then you're probably an alcoholic. Patrick from Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, welcome back. Joel. Yep. So there's 9 counter sheets in this. I don't know if I'll be clipping this for the next 2 months or not. It's possible. So, because, and I'll talk about the storage solution for this too, because it's in a 3-inch box, as you'll see when you watch the unboxing video. It's in a 3-inch box, which is a big box, and thank goodness. But I'm still not going to be able to get more than 2 counter trays in this thing. So, what we're using instead are these trays from the Container Store. I have a link to these trays in the video description or in a pinned comment, I forget what, in the OCS Storage Solutions video. I can get 4 of these trays, it's tight, in this box, and I think that this is going to end up being the storage solution container for Pacific War as well. So I went to the Container Store today and bought 8 of them. So what the hell am I doing here? All right, so that said, Warsaw Pact forces are going to eat about 1.5 of these, as far as I can tell right now. So let's see what we're doing. And I'm organizing the... Patchwork Picture says Belvedere is his or her default vodka. I'm not 100% sure that I've ever had Belvedere, but I'm not a huge vodka fan. Jeff Beeler says, we have a free afternoon. What wargame are we going to play? I don't have a side game for Winterfest, and, we're playing OCS, so I probably should think about that. The side game might be the traditional Winterfest side game, which is a huge double-blind refereed game of flat top. That's always a great fun. So we may just do that. So I get I use plenty of GMT trays too, but the various plastic trays that I use tend to come from the Container Store. And I tend to like buy some trays at Michael's, and then I end up never using those trays, or end up using them for screws or something like that. So, all right, how are we doing this? Something, I don't know what the hell that was. What the hell was that? The various plastic. Okay, a ding just went through, and I don't know what the ding was. So let me close all the various other tabs here. 38 people watching during the other thing. So like I said, I feel like we're doing pretty well. This is going to be the best. Okay, so what's getting played at Winterfest? That I know about, right? And I apparently don't know everything that's going on. There's going to be at least, I think I counted 4 OCS games. There's going to be Ostfront, which is the third winter combined with Forgotten Battles, its direct sequel, and Hero City, or The Hero City, which is its next sequel, each of which is a 4-map game. So that is going to be a 12-map game, 13 maps, assuming they're going to put Korea dangling off the bottom, which I think they're going to. Crimea is probably going to be the next OCS, from what it sounds like, the next OCS game on pre-order, so be on the lookout for that. It will be a 1-map, relatively small game. And I did dip my toes in the playtest for that a little bit, so we'll see how that works out. Jason W. says the ding was the notification that Stigler bought a DG product. He is not in the house tonight. So, Hissycat Studios, I hope you caught your mention as the channel of the week. Thanks for stopping by. Did GMT ship the games yet that they charged in January? Like, blah, blah, blah. I don't... So, let's check Consum World on that. Because last I checked, they were going to start shipping to general recipients, not Euro-friendly, toward the end of last week. I think that's correct, or maybe it was the week before. So let's see if there's any news on that. Somebody posting their stuff in giant font. I don't know why. Looking for Gene actually saying something. Yeah, there's not any news. And the latest update is that January 20th update. So I don't have any new news later than they were supposed to start shipping at some point. I have not received a shipping notification. Sometimes I get a shipping notification from GMT and sometimes I don't. So, however, I do get a shipping notification from UPS. And I have found through experience that if I'm ordering from GMT, I will typically use UPS in preference to the U.S. Post Office because it's California to Ohio. I have had a rather high percentage of UPS or USPS flat rate boxes get banged up on that long trip. So holy cow, 61 watching, really? Wow. Okay, so yeah, we're doing good. I'm very happy. So I think I got 5 coming as well, Joe. So, yeah, so I haven't heard anything, but we're probably not going to get a monthly update from GMT for at least another week or 2. I've been saying for weeks that this stuff's super likely to drop when I am at Winterfest. So, let's do these, because these are the polls. What is... Oh, that's Israel. Okay, we're not doing Israel yet. We're I don't want to do NATO stuff yet, or U.S. faction stuff yet. This is sheet 2, okay, and it's Middle Easterners and Finns, Austrians, and Poles. We're only doing the Warsaw Pact stuff tonight. So, because I don't think we're going to get that far. So, it is all good. All good. So, I'm very pleased. I will say, I mean, watch the unboxing video to see all the goodies that you get in the box, and it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff. So let me also talk about the counters. So the counters are those newer, quite thick Compass Games counters. They fit. It's a tight fit, but they fit without forcing them into my 2.5 millimeter clipper. They're a little tighter than that on my 2 millimeter clipper. They're 9/16 inch counters. So I thought that I was going to end up using the 2.5 if I could, and then if I couldn't, I would use the 2. And I tried it with the 2, and I'm like, man, this is super tight. I don't know what's going on. It's less tight with the 2.5. So, Brant says that the GMT update will show up about 10 minutes after they post their Tuesday news day. That's plausible. By the 18th, they're supposed to have shipped all of the contents of the One Ring RPG. The new edition, and I've not gotten any notifications yet, too. So obviously I'm on their shit list. So same as GMT. I shipped this guy's last. He's an asshole. So, yeah, Bama retired grunt Scott Blanchett says that it's a really nice package. He really likes the components, just started reading the rules. I've, of course, played the old ones, and it's really good. Is it a replacement for, like, NATO? And I talk about this a little bit in the video, because there's a couple other things that are in this kind of same space. One of which is NATO, the Cold War Gone Hot, which is the new Bruce Maxwell version of the old Bruce Maxwell game from Victory Games back in the 80s. But that's kind of a redesign, right? I mean, that's like different in a lot of ways from the original Victory Games. This is a different front. That's different in many ways from the original Victory Games title. Whereas this, it differs only in very minor ways other than the graphics. Jeff Beebler says they're going to start playtesting I, Napoleon next week. I haven't pre-ordered that, but I know it's made its number already. I'm very curious to see that. Very curious, in part because I like Ted and Ted's design aesthetic, but also because Ted describes it as an RPG, which I'm not sure I'd agree with Ted on that, but I'm not 100% sure that I disagree yet. But I want to see what Ted thinks about that space. So I'm real curious to see I, Napoleon, and there's a good chance I'm going to end up buying it. Part-time explorer. I'm not sure. Somebody, I apologize for this. It may have been John Longshore, sent me some guy, a bald and I forget, it's a bald guy from England who is traveling around, mostly in the former Soviet Union, and he doesn't do a ton of videos. Those are actually pretty fascinating. So I do want to once again thank, and I'm going to say this repeatedly, so buckle up. Thanks everybody for tuning in this evening. So I really do appreciate it. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about the complaint too. So a helpful citizen has posted about 15 comments on one of my older OCS bootcamp videos pointing out rules mistakes. In some cases, rules mistakes. In not all cases was he correct. In some cases, it's, we caught that like in the video. This is not the most recent OCS bootcamp that we did back in January with the Armchair Dragoons. This is one of the older ones. So one of the things that happens is, we play with a regular OCS group here in Columbus, okay? And we use some of the optional rules, including, in this case, I'm talking about proportional losses, right? So let's say you got a three-step unit, and you have taken one hit. Well, then the unit is at 2/3 strength, right? That's not the core rule, right? That's an optional rule. We play with that, and so it's very easy for me to just kind of assume that everybody plays with that, and maybe that's not true. So that's one of the things that got caught by this helpful individual. And I have cooled off somewhat about it now, but I was really annoyed the other day when this guy kept doing it. And I kept looking at the comments and saying, yes, we caught that. Yes, I'm aware of that problem. Yes, the next video will address this. Blah, 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 blah. Until I finally said, fuck this guy. And I pulled the video down. So some of those mistakes are mistakes. And I don't want people to get the wrong idea. So, and there's already a replacement video for that in the most recent OCS Bootcamp video that we did in January. So if you want to watch that, go watch that one rather than one of the earlier ones. So, although, that is a bit unfortunate because I'm less familiar with Sicily 2 than I am with Smolensk, which was the game we used for all of the other ones. So I feel like it flowed less well because I'm less familiar with the map. Okay, Thomas Bandy said Compass does not send notifications, but I have USPS informed delivery, which tells me when there is USPS stuff en route to my mail address. So I know when Compass is shipping me stuff. So I'm like, ooh, is this it? Is this third world? Is this third world? Yeah, in a couple of weeks I'll be like that with War for America. One of the upcoming titles, and I should have done this earlier in January, and it kind of got bumped, was, most anticipated games of the year. So we will talk about that in detail. I did not playtest OCS Luzon, but one of our local guys has. So, Brian Jarvis, I forget which event that OCS Bootcamp video was tied to. So, Legion of Honor is pretty neat. I got, or at least looks neat. I mean, I haven't played it. All right, so Scott Blanchard says all he has in the pipeline is Pacific War, Most Fearful Sacrifice, and Errant Armor. Well, so, in Compass's defense, right, they're also subject to the vicissitudes of the global logistical situation right now. So, that is not a guaranteed excuse, but, it is messing specific timetable details up. And it's not like Compass has never been late on anything. Certainly that's not true, but, they are not the only ones. So we're about to fall out of the sheets here. All right, so here we have Swedes, Brits, Norwegians, Canadians, Danes, Italians, Spaniards, Yugoslavs. IRC is Iranian communists. That's part of... I'm looking for more Warsaw Pact stuff. Here's Hungary. Let me look at I've got the ID chart here. Warsaw Pact should, Hungary. Yeah, so we'll punch Hungary. And I'm organizing these by strategic direction and then by front. I looked at just doing it by strategic direction, and I still, even in these bigger compartments, I still won't have room. William Aaron says he cut and attached pieces of poster board to the counter sheets for bayonets and tomahawks and then put the counters back in the sheets. That would totally work, and if I owned 2 Wargames, I would consider that methodology, but I do not, and I don't think that would be practical for me. And I don't have bayonets and tomahawks either. Strelnikov asks about Conquest and Consequences. I did not order it, and I am slightly regretting not ordering it because I have played Triumph and Tragedy, and I actually like Triumph and Tragedy a lot. I'm very curious to see what that design looks like in the Pacific. Current prospectus on the OCS. So the OCS video series is one of 3 projects that I'm working on right now. 3 development projects, like major, holy cow, this needs a lot of effort projects. So right now it's looking like March. Is like mid to late March for episode 1. But once episode 1 is out, hopefully I'll have a good enough pipeline established that I can do. And honestly, the target's something like 1 episode every couple of weeks or month or so. So the offending poster, I don't there's not a real name. It was like John C. or something like that. It wasn't John C., but you get the idea. So I didn't get a real name on it, and I wouldn't mention it even if it was. So, and the idea is to replace those particular videos with up-to-date videos that are also thoroughly vetted by people on the OCS development team. So I think we will be able to say with confidence that when we get to the structured tutorial stuff, that it's going to be, pretty much totally error-free. So, or at least important error-free. So let's see. So Joel asked about the CLS Damos series. So that is 3 games by Conflict Simulations Limited or Conflict, I forget. But it's actually, I got an unboxing video in the pipeline for that, and it actually looks pretty neat. I got to look at the chart for this. So there's like a, I'm not going to be able to show you this. You'll see it in the unboxing video. But there's like a stripe across the top of the counters that are, this is 21st Army. That is the first order of organization, which in the case of the Pact stuff is the strategic direction. Yeah, so this is Southwestern Army. Okay. And then there's a lower stripe on the counters. You can see the colored stripe across the middle of the counters, which is the second order of organization, which is the front. So are these Hungarians? Yeah, they are. Okay, good. So we're organizing them by front. And then I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to handle the labeling on these yet, but I will label them. So I've got most of the Warsaw Pact stuff done. There's going to be a lot of markers here. So there's that. Yep, some channels do use that, but I'd have to actually watch the 4-hour video, right? And it's taking that 4 hours to do that is the problem. And frankly, the YouTube interface for that is kind of clumsy. So, William Aaron says he had pre-ordered I, Napoleon. Yes, very much an alternate history game. I mean, even more so than your typical war game, I think. And Doug, I'm not complaining so much about the pointing out of rules errors. I'm complaining about the person being a douche about it on a 3-year-old video. So that Damos stuff, I've looked at it. I haven't played it, obviously. It actually looks kind of interesting. There's a lot of map overlap between the 3 games. So don't imagine that you're getting like this 3-map mini monster. You're getting like a map and a half decent sized game out of it. So yeah, so I'm actually planning on cornering Tony and Chip and Curtis for another video interview at Winterfest. And we have bought a lavalier microphone for that purpose. This was like $20. It could be garbage. I have no idea. So we may... It's not a super noisy environment. So I think if I manage to get by with doing audio with my phone at Compass Expo, which was quite a bit noisier than I expect Winterfest to be, then I think we're going to be okay. And I can always do that later in the evening too. So... So, canvas map. Yeah, I don't know if it's canvas or vinyl or something like that, but I think they have a deluxe map for that. And they are Blue Panther prints too. You could tell by handling them, right? So yeah, expect some OCS state of the system type of news content coming out after during Winterfest or during Winterfest, and we will I mean, even if it's just me talking about it 2 Mondays from tonight. Yeah, Brant, I think we're going to have more than that. I think we're going to have about 30 this year. That's exactly right, though. It's not that many people, so it's not... Skid Wister says douche is a verb, not a noun. Okay, fair enough. Then this person has douched out, so good for them. Yeah, I do. As somebody that's not colorblind, I do feel that to some extent, this is the amount of light that I have in this room while I'm clipping counters. Now, I have 3 lights here. I have 2 lights, and there's more light in the room now than there used to be before I got the new webcam. The new webcam is better with light than the old webcam is, so I'm able to bounce 2 lights off the ceiling right here, and then I have another one bouncing off over here. So the lighting in the room is quite a bit better than it used to be, and I'm still having a wee bit of trouble telling this pink apart from this red, particularly since the stripe is so narrow. So Hissy Studio says that they're getting back into the hobby in the small stack of games. He has DAC 2 and version 3.0 of the OCS rules. If he's asking, he or she is asking, can they just play with the new rules? Yes, absolutely. Since version 2, there are changes, right? Between 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 in particular, there are, in some cases, significant changes. But in every case, although there's in the current errata document, which you can get off of OCSdepot.com, there's some notes for playing the older games with the current rules. None of those are big deals. So yeah, you could totally play any OCS game except for the first Guderian's Blitzkrieg with the current rules, and you will be absolutely fine. So like same deal with the markers, right? I mean, if you got markers out of Tunisia 1, you're fine. Not a problem at all. I do want to rubber band these because the lids just they don't lock down or anything. All right, so what is getting played at Winterfest? So here's what I'm aware of. This isn't necessarily authoritative, but this is what I'm aware of. There's the big Ostfront game, which I've already described. It's going to be big, and I assume it's going to have at least 12 people on it. Does that sound right? Yeah, I think so. So there's going to be that. There's going to be a separate game of Forgotten Battles, which I am playing in. There's going to be a Beyond the Rhine game, and I think there's talk of a Korea game as well, but I don't have confirmation on that. There's also going to be a cross-channel attack game that I'm not 100% sure where it's going to go. But there is rollover space, so it's they'll figure it out. There's going to be a large Der Weltkrieg game. How large? I'm not sure, but I know they don't have like 8 tables. I think they've got 4 tables. There's going to be a... let me know if there's any hitching problems with the stream, please. What else do we have going? There's a Stalingrad 42. Let's see here. Oh, why do you not want to work Facebook? I hate Facebook, man. Not just because I hate Facebook, just because it sucks. It just sucks. There's a document here that I can't pull up because it's on Facebook. So, yeah, for those who didn't see it, and I don't have, Compass sent it to me, and I don't have the first one. So it's like I would love to give you more information on this, but I don't have the first one. It does look neat, though, and it looks like a real meaty package. So I don't have any news on OCS Changsha, but that might, and that's that's World War II in China. That looks super neat. I've seen the map, but I don't have any news other than there's a map. So maybe I'll talk to them about that. Maybe that'll be something that we talk about. I do know it's in development. I don't know where it is in development. Okay, so Forgotten Battles has not yet been announced formally by MMP, but the next Tony Burkett game that will attach to the Third Winter, which we have taken the last 3 weeks to set up here, is the follow-up to Third Winter. That's Forgotten Battles. So I don't think there is even a BGG entry for it yet. So, yeah, so there is a cover for Forgotten Battles already, though, and it does look good. Just a Guard has been doing videos from the Game On event. Stephen Dolges is also there in Seattle. It's like a 5 or 6 day event. It seems to be Wargame oriented, so it looks pretty cool. So, The timing, and I'll talk about this later, the timing on that is unfortunate for me. So, no Death Ride games from Grognard Sims. There will be a large format playtest or display of a big upcoming Stalingrad thing that may or may not, we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. Designer, somebody involved, I don't know if it's the designer or not, will be there. So, and they're definitely playing. There is a Crimea game. But that is a one-map game so there were actually two different Crimea projects in the works, and they're being combined into one Crimea game. That will also attach to Third Winter for those who want to do that. Yeah, I don't know how recent Tony's pictures of Total War are. I mean, Tony managed to scrape up all the various playtest versions of things, and, good for him. I am not ever going to try playing Total War, but John, thank you for the maps, because I might do something else with the maps. We'll see. Something that, works, which Total War didn't. So good luck to Tony on that. I think he's going to find that it falls apart in 41. So that's my guess. So, and I'll talk. I could give you the rundown of OCS things that are in the pipeline, but I'll be much better positioned to do that next week when I have the OCS team, the OCS development team, all of whom will be there. Not every designer will be there, obviously, but Tony will be there, Chip will be there, and Curtis will be there, so we'll be able to talk to those. I have not played any of the Death Ride games, but I keep doing this because people keep asking me this. I do have Aris here, so at some point I would, in fact, like to try it. And I'll let you know what I think when that happens. So we're still playing. What we're playing is we're still playing War in the Desert, and the torch landings have just occurred, and it. As is usual for Europa, there's this Byzantine array of extra special rules that you only use during the special half turn that you get for the torch landings. So it took us, we've been speeding through 3 months a night before torch, and we got like one whole turn in last Tuesday. So and we are playing this week, and not next week, obviously, because we'll all be at some of us will be at Winterfest, and we're hoping that by the time that the conclusion of this game will more or less coincide with me concluding my clipping of Pacific War, which will probably take a while. Just guessing. Yeah, there is some like state of the system stuff on OCS Depot, but that hasn't been updated in a while. Tony's going to have a problem with the overall operational flow, I think. And that was the big problem that they ran into with Total War, is they put all this extra terrain on the maps, and that intersecting with the game system means that the Germans can't make any progress. So, Anton Klote, or Klota, thanks for stopping by. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. So, all right, so let's talk about. We're gonna digress for a minute. I'm sure we're gonna end up going back to Wargames here, but I am gonna digress for a couple minutes to talk about the two RPG related projects that I haven't talked about yet. And let me see, what do I want to show off here? Now the third project is, of course, the OCS tutorial series, right? So I have, and I said this on Twitter the other day, I have like 20 or 20, it might actually be 25 years worth of old RPGs in various states of development, only one of which was even semi-finished on my hard drive. And I have been excellent about keeping those files, but I can't read the formats in some cases anymore, like Lotus Word Pro, which I was a dedicated adherent of for a long time. Just they stopped supporting it in like 2014 or something like that. So we were not able to look at that. So I started working on a fantasy RPG, using some ideas that I had before with my current thinking along those lines. And I spent all day yesterday working on life paths. So the idea here is the basic character creation process is you pick a race, you pick a background, you pick a training, and then you pick a vocation. And each of those gives you a series of tables that you can either roll on or pick from, and it gives you skill ranks or whatever else. And then you roll it. So it's kind of like Traveler, but it's a little more structured in that you don't have just an open-ended, take as many careers as you want. You have to actually pick a race, a background, a training, and a vocation. And that's it. And then there'll be an optional rule later for like advanced careers. It's actually a little more similar to the way Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing did it at one point. So we got the background life paths are done. We're working on the training life paths, which is this kind of my worksheet for it. This is it. I worked on this yesterday until my eyes crossed. So we're not going to be dealing with that anymore. Now the other thing that I've been working, well, no, I didn't. I needed a break. So let me put it that way. All right. Do we have something going on here in the chat? I'm not sure. So everybody be nice. Remember to be nice, okay? So we do have like tons of people watching here today, considering what else is going on. So thanks very much for that. The other thing that I've been working on is the setting, and let me pull up the most recent version of the map, which I am doing in Inkscape. This is why I bought the Wacom tablet, by the way. And I'll show you what this looks like, and if it doesn't crash the stream. It's not that big of a file, just because of the way vector graphics or files are stored, but when it gets into it and has to start actually calculating everything, it takes a while to open this thing. So I don't know if this is going to completely poop the bed here or what, but so here we're working on obviously the gray is like sea area that's just not filled in yet. So this is the sort of mountain area that I was working on, and you might look at this and say this does not look like a very organic mountain chain, and then when you zoom out to here, you'll see why. It'll be more obvious when I finish the other half of it. This is a giant crater of some kind. So the whole thing, I'm real happy with what it looks like so far, and we'll see what it actually turns into in the long run. So let me close that before it creates stream problems. Even Excel, I really don't even want Excel open right now. So yeah, I'm not really paying any attention to the other thing. So if anybody is, I don't mind. So anybody watching, though, please do thumbs up the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. Please do click the little bell icon to get notified when new content comes out. And please check out the links in the video description to the Patreon, the merch store, and the Ko-Fi. So thanks, everybody, for that. Atlantis. So I've got like a reference box of like old RPGs sitting around, and one of the reference RPGs is actually the old Atlantis RPG from Bard Games. The RPG rules was called Arcanum, but the world was called Atlantis, and it was kind of built on that. It's kind of neat. Yeah, that is my RPG, and it's got parts from all over the place. I was working on like a class-based system, and I decided I didn't want to go with a class-based system. I'm going to have the vocations, but the vocations are just skill bundles. A lot of the rest of it is built on the chassis of the D20 system. It will be a D20-based system is the intention at the moment, because I like the scale of numbers available and the linear 1 to 20 roll, right? So there will be levels of some kind, but they might not look like D&D's levels, and the game won't really look much like D&D other than being a D20 thing, and having the sort of skill structure from D20 where you have ranks in a skill, and then you have a stat bonus, and then maybe there's special modifiers or whatever, and then those represent your total bonus. You put those together and you get a total bonus that you roll against a target number. That is a thing that was borrowed from, this is a Monty Cook thing, right? Monty took it from Rollmaster. That is the Rollmaster skill system, just cut down to 20 skills or whatever it was. I'm going to have more than 20 skills. I'm going to have about 50. But I don't have Quest World, no. Are we talking about the old Quest World or the new Quest Worlds RPG that is what used to be called Hero Quest? Because I do have Hero Quest, second edition, first and second edition Hero Quest, actually. But I don't, and I had Quest Worlds, the old Quest Worlds box at one point, which was like the non-Glorantha box, and that went away. I have no idea where. So, it does look a little like the Great Caldera for Bruce Hurd's, what's Bruce's new, it's like right on the tip of my tongue. Bruce's New World project, which I did back the Kickstarter for, but my map style does not look like Thorf's map style at all. So, Doug, you are absolutely right. LibreOffice will open, last I checked, not perfectly, but perfectly enough, will open Lotus Word profiles. You are absolutely correct about that. If I need those files, I will install LibreOffice, which is, of course, open source too. John Longshort. So Dune does not map particularly well for... let me think this through. I mean, what tech level are we talking about? Are we talking about like the general Imperial tech level? Are we talking about the Atreides tech level, the Harkonnen tech level, the Arrakis tech level? I mean, I think all of those values are potentially different. In a sense, it doesn't map very cleanly, but you wouldn't expect it to. But in a sense, it maps really well because... computers are, at least in the old Traveler Tech level system, computers were still, because it was the 1970s when this thing was designed, were still these huge room-filling devices, right? You had to have tonnage dedicated to your ship's computer, for example. The current rule set does not do that. So, Jeff, I'm not sure that this system will do that. Well, I'm sure that this system will do that somehow. I'm not sure how it will do that. There will be a diminishing returns or slowing of returns somehow, but that may be built into levels rather than being built into this cost of raising skills. Kaladar is Bruce's new setting, which is really neat, and I really kind of would like to get caught back up on where Bruce is with that, because I backed the original Kickstarter, but I know that there's like a couple other products out for it now. The personal force, and that's right. I mean, that's a complete wild card thing. Is the GravTech, which is the same Holtzman effect in Dune, right? Is absolutely in Traveler from like tech level 9, I think. But the personal force fields are something that you don't even see. Force fields in general are a TL16 thing, and very little, 16, 17. And that's like a black globe, which is, it's a force field, but it's also like a weird force field, right? So, what I wasn't impressed with Dune is the way the troops behaved. I didn't feel like they behaved like competent troops. But that's probably the wargamer talking, to be honest. So, Jeff Beeler, what universal role-playing system are you talking about? Are you talking about... because it doesn't sound like GURPS. It sounds like BRP, which does have the feature that you're describing. So 75 people watching. Thank you very much for coming by. Hopefully I've caught everybody. Well, that map is not even close to done. So, Eric, thank you so much. First of all, welcome to the stream. It's not close to done. And I actually thought about doing... So I have, like, a couple RPG stream ideas in mind. The challenge, of course, is finding an actual time slot that this fits. And I actually also want to bring somebody else on, at least for the first or second one of those. And so I got a work schedule out with them, too. So Chad Kennedy asks about OSG's reprint of Four Lost Battles. Last I heard, which was several weeks ago, I think they had sent the counters to the printer or the boxes to the printer or something. So my kind of guess, they didn't say this, but my guess is actually that it's probably going to start shipping toward the end of this month or possibly in March. Shouldn't be too much longer. Okay, so Jeff, you may recall that Milton Bradley released back in, I think, the 90s, a game called Hero Quest, which is a dungeon crawling type board game, okay? Much later, Isaris, I think, did an RPG called Hero Quest, which was the Glorantha RPG in a time when RuneQuest had been separated, if you will, from Glorantha, okay? So, as of like a year or so ago, or something like that, Chaosium finally sat down with Hasbro and worked it out with their lawyers, where they would give the Hasbro people the name Hero Quest, and they would retire the Hero Quest RPG and then re-release it rebranded as Quest Worlds. So we're talking the same Chaos. I mean, they're both Chaosium, right? But if you're talking about the old Quest World box, then that's the old thing that I did have. Don't have it anymore. The new Quest Worlds I don't have, and I'm not 100% sure that it's even out yet. Chaosium's catching a lot of flack right now because of their flirtation with NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which is a kind of crypto scam for suckers. But it's an odious business, but I am not really inclined to make a big protest about it personally, just because there's more important things to be concerned about, in my opinion. So I disapprove, but I am not calling for, nor am I saying I'm not buying anything from Chaosium in the future. So Matthew Wellhead says he's written some RPGs. It's not easy, man. Like I said, so I have intentionally limited the number of life paths in the core set. Right? There's 8, 8, and 8. There's I haven't done the racial stuff yet, but the racial stuff will make stat modifications more so than give skills. But there might be a couple skills too. I don't know. And you'll be able to either roll on the tables or pick. But if you roll all the way through randomly, you'll get an extra roll anywhere you want at the end. So you have an extra little benefit to randomly rolling the character. But you may pick. And there's also a cap. Currently, that cap is 4. During character creation, you can't have more than 4 ranks in any one thing. And if you choose, you can't pick the same result on the same table twice. And there's no duplicate entries on the table. Jeff Beeler says that basic role-playing by Chaosium had the system where the better you get at a skill, the harder it is to get better at it. Yes. Okay, so the way that works is when you use a skill, and I don't recall off the top of my head whether any time you used it or you had to succeed or whatever. But basically, under certain circumstances, when you would use a skill, you'd put a check mark by the skill on the character sheet. And then at the end of the session, or the end of the adventure, or whatever, you would get a roll to increase it. But the way the roll was structured is it was harder to make the roll if the better you were at the skill. So that's what he is talking about. There's other game systems that have done that. Burning Wheel actually does that. A number of other... thank you, John, for taking care of that nonsense. So that's one of the 75 people watching. Our Russian bot friend that stops by every week. Chaosium, Brant says that Chaosium has interesting mechanics, but not any settings that he ever gave a crap about. I like Glorantha. I don't know that I'd ever want to play. I don't know that I'd ever want to run in Glorantha. Let me put it that way. I have played in Glorantha, and I don't think I ever have run in it. It's a really neat setting. I tend to think it was written to satisfy Greg's philosophical and authorial leanings more so than for a game. But I'm aware that it was designed for a game too, and it is a really neat setting. And their mechanics are, depends on which game you're talking about, but they tend to be relatively easy. And I'm also trying to make it, the thing I'm working on, I'm trying to not make super duper complicated too. I have really never seriously had the I must design a war game now itch. I have had the itch to redesign counters or design counters, but there is Iggy Krichtal mentions the infamous ducks. The ducks, think Howard the Duck, are in fact a race on Glorantha. They're less prominent than their place in RPG lore suggests, but yeah, that's more U.S. There's extra counters. Oh, that's a Soviet unit. Let's pull that. There's a lot of counters in this thing. Keegan S. First of all, welcome to the stream. Asks, what references am I using for realistic map plate tectonics? And the answer, let me pull the map up again. I'll give you an answer on that in a second when I talk about it. But the short answer is that there is a world-building channel called Artifexian. He's an Irish fella whose videos I think are super duper valuable. And I have watched a bunch of them, like, a lot. Yeah, very good. So we got that. All right, so let's say here is the world map. Let me put this back up, okay? In Inkscape. So this is all work in progress, right? So I'm going to go to layers here. And I am going to turn on the tectonic plate boundaries, okay? So we have the tectonic plates. We have the direction of movement of the tectonic plates. You'll notice this thing is its own weird, not entirely natural plate. We also have, where is it? Here are the ocean currents, which probably will need a bit of tweaking now that I've actually drawn the land masses in. Here is the atmospheric currents. So we're taking into account a lot of at least I'm doing my best to make it relatively believable. But a lot of this is kind of going step by step through the Artifexian stuff, and bearing, in mind the things that he is talking about. So, and then of course, you look at the Earth's tectonic plates and draw some, and that I watched the video and okay, I got the map already. I've got the continental outline, so I kind of want to just put the plates in over top of that, which of course is the opposite to how you should do it if you're doing it from first principles. That again, I'm willing to make concessions in that regard. So it's all good. So, it might look a lot like Gondwana and Laurasia, but remember that the known world map, like the D&D known world Mystara, that was originally drawn based on a Jurassic period map, right? Thorfinn Tate is the current Mystara map guy, and he has a blog, and whatever level of detail you want to find, on, hey, taking real world spherical projections and turn them into maps, he's got all that stuff. So John Longshore, that's a pretty cool idea. Speaking of Sopranos, I didn't see that prequel. I'm really curious to watch that, actually. Oh, we're dropping counters all over the place. Sounds like we're starting to clip the NATO stuff today. All right, so what do we got here? AL. Are these Albanians? They are, in fact, Albanians. Okay. All the Albanians are going in the same thing, I think. There's a decent number of blank counters in here, by the way. The Tude. Who are the Tude? There are some Middle Eastern group, I would assume. Okay. So Doug says that RuneQuest Glorantha is much stranger than just I think he means anthropomorphics. Yeah, it is. It's super weird. And that turned, I think to some extent that turned people off. The ducks are cursed. That's true. They're cursed to be ducks. They're not just. They weren't just normally ducks. Mark Hodgkinson, hi from Brisbane. They're into War Plan, OCS TTW. Very good, very good. We're about to start. We should play our first turn actually of Third Winter on Thursday. That's the plan, and then I'm gonna leave and start setting it up again on Friday. So, Napoleon's Last Battles, great game, classic game, Clash of Monarchs, Nations in Arms, good, a lot of good games there. So, apparently we have some Ducks fans, not the Mighty Ducks or the the Anaheim. Is it the Anaheim Ducks? I think it is. We may end up having to put all these weird little miners. No, the Albanians are kind of like a salmon color. Yes, you are absolutely right, Brian. That does sound a lot like root. So, once again, I would like to thank everybody for stopping by. Compass really kind of booked out, like tons and tons of people. It showed up on Friday. So, the Anaheim Ducks were named after the Mighty Ducks, if you didn't know that. Because they're owned, I forget, but weren't they like part owned by Disney or something like that at some point? Peking duck, yeah, there we go. Do they call it Beijing duck now? I don't think so. There's no black counters actually. There's some dark gray counters of various nationalities, but nobody's red on black. There's a lot of like quality of play enhancements to this. I don't remember whether Gordon, thanks for stopping by. I don't remember whether the stacking points were on the counters in the original Third World War or not offhand. If they weren't, then that's definitely something I would have complained about. There are like capability symbols or indications on these counters as well, which was another thing. Is like you just had to kind of know that this particular type of unit was like air mobile capable or whatever. So, generally speaking, I mean, remember this covers like almost all of Europe, right? All the Balkans, so all of Eastern Europe, Central Europe down to Italy, Northern Italy, plus all the Middle East. The maps do, I think people will have footprint problems with the game. Perfidious Albion, how big is the entire map size? There are 6, I think it's 6, is that, I don't have the box back in front of me. I think it's 6 maps, and they're full-size maps. But there's like the Europe side of the map and then the Middle East side of the map, and they don't fit in a square way, as you know, they really couldn't. If you put them in GMT trays, then I think you probably would need 4 trays. That is why I am using these container store trays instead, because I can get 4 of these in the box, and I can only get 2 GMT trays in the box, and this gives me 28 times 2, which would be 56 compartments as opposed to 40. So, and they're bigger compartments because these are like walled compartments as opposed to blow molded compartments with a lot of dead space in there. SY, that'd be Syrians. Now there are rules for nukes in this thing. So, and for those who want a much more detailed treatment of the air war gone hot, this has it much more so than say the NATO Cold War gone hot game, which has a very abstract air system, which is fine, but it just if you want more detail in the air game where it feels like you're fighting out the air war, then maybe you look at this instead of NATO. But we played NATO and really did like it a lot. So now the one I haven't played yet is the big 1985 thing from Thin Red Line. I'd like to, but we haven't gotten to it yet. Yeah, see, Jeff, that's a thing that should be on the counter, but isn't in. And Europa works like that too, where so just in the desert war in the desert that we're playing, like Italian divisions. If the Italian division is a breakdownable division, it's 3 REs, and that's pretty much your stacking. And your portage and a bunch of other things. If it's a non-breakdownable division, it's 2 REs. So you got to just kind of know that it's a division that you can or can't break down, and that should be on the counters, right? So you don't have to ask that question. So, Patchwork Pictures. If we're talking about Third World War here, yeah, there is rules for all that stuff. The 1985, I will verify that what Panza is saying right now. The 1985 series is, in fact, heavier rules than Third World War. This is not super complicated, actually. I think it's a little more complicated than NATO, but not by much. And the size of the rule book is going to fool you, because that NATO rule book it's like a high redundancy rule book. So if you look at it, you'll see it's like an 80 some page rule book, and that makes it sound super complicated, and it's not as nearly as complicated as that suggests. So well, I'm happy to report that the stacking points are on the counters in this edition of Third World War, at least. And also the national identity is on the counters too, so you don't have to actually try and figure out what the 70 different colors combinations mean. The only place it gets a little hairy is in the Middle East, where you have at least 3 different Iranian factions, for example. So looking to see, yes, Spain's part of NATO. So I think we're going to, well, we're gonna have to take the plastic off of this one, because we are going to need a third one. So the complexity of, I hate having to do this to people, but Keegan asks, which next war are we talking about? Are we talking about the GMT next war? Are we talking about NATO, the next war in Europe from Victory Games? Or are we talking about the SPI game called The Next War? All of which are different, and which are at fairly different levels of complexity. The GMT series is more of a contemporary what-if series. So that, to me, puts it in a very different space than this. But aside from that, the basic game is relatively easy to play, but the advanced game adds a lot, especially in air and naval. So this looks easier to play than the GMT Next War advanced game. Let me put it that way. At the moment, we're giving everybody their own compartment here, but they're going to need to get consolidated at some point. I will be able to get 4 of these in the box. Yeah, I don't know that there's a huge difference. Panza says this and GMT's Next War are similar in complexity. I think that's generally true. I'd say that if you're playing the advanced rules for Next War, I think it's a little more complicated. Again, definitely in the air systems more complicated. But I do think that this was a huge influence on the Next War series design, though. I don't know if anybody's ever actually said that. Unboxing video of this is on Thursday. It's already filmed, it's already edited, it's uploaded, it's scheduled for Thursday, 10 a.m. John Lozier says, I'm not going to talk about contemporary stuff here because I don't know what the hell Putin's going to do. I read a relatively convincing article that said that they thought Putin was going to back down, but, who knows? I don't think they want to have direct shooting between U.S. troops and Russian troops. I think that is a huge escalation that I don't know if Putin has the stomach for. But, hopefully I'm right. So... Now, the 1985 series from Thin Red Line is like a noticeable jump in complexity over this. So, you could organize these by individual game, but that does mean that you'd have to sit there and figure out, like, okay, here's the British units. Which of the British units are with which game? Because the UK units, I think, show up in all 4 games, if I'm not mistaken. It looks like the Italians are only in Battle for Germany. The Danes are only in Battle for Germany, which I would certainly expect. Yugoslavs considered part of Warsaw Pact? Or are they neutrals? Nope, they're neutrals. That makes sense. Yeah, Next War Poland. You're kind of right about. I don't recall exactly when that was published. Remember that at one point there was a very pro-Russia government in the Ukraine, and that's before when that government collapsed. That's when all this mess started to develop. Eric asks, who would want a naval module for the Third World War? So that was something that was talked about, but I think that was asked in the Compass Games interview with Frank Chadwick last time they had one, and I think he said they really couldn't make a good game out of that. Jeff says only the Americans are in all 4 games. That's probably true. But I'd have to sit there. There's several that are in more than one, and I'd have to sit there and figure that out, and I don't want to deal with that. So I'm organizing. I may organize NATO like that. I don't know. The Warsaw Pact, I'm not organizing like that. I'm organizing it by strategic direction, which kind of does correspond to the individual games. Yes. So there is a completely modular scenario thing in the book where you get all the original scenarios out of the 4 individual games, plus you get a Battle for Germany plus Balkan Front. You get a Battle for Germany plus Arctic Front. You get a Baltic. What is the Baltic game called? Not Baltic, but Balkan Front game, the Arctic Front game, and the Battle for Germany together, and then you get all 4 together. So you can pretty much play any configuration however you want. I think Frank's point was that the naval war is going to be up in the air for like a day, and then the West is good. The U.S. and its allies are going to be on top of the naval conflict, which is a different question as to where the land war, which is going to go on. For assuming it doesn't just escalate into a nuclear holocaust. Is going to go on for some period of weeks. And so what are you going to do? Just like the first 3 turns, you have naval stuff to do, and then you just don't do anything. I understand why we didn't get a module for that if that's how that shook out. So this obviously the Soviets are in all 4 games as well. So, and of course you do get the cards right that you got with Persian Gulf, so you kind of get to play out the sort of initial scenario, which is pretty cool. Perfidious Albion, you might be right about that, but I also think you can hand wave that, and there is like a substantial background section of, okay, here's what leads up to our hypothetical Cold War gone hot in the playbook. So you got a lot of material to work with. Yeah, so if you think about it, it's the Soviet Union is like the only country that borders all 4 maps, right? So they're going to have the most ability to say, okay, we're going to just kind of skeleton crew this Arctic Front operation and put those forces in Central Germany, Central Europe instead. So they will have more strategic options, just based on geography, right? It's a much later. So I think they came out between 84 and 86, the 4 games, which is a really compressed schedule. But I mean, you can definitely see the evolution in say Frank Chadwick's design sense between this and Europa, which has which admittedly Frank was only involved, kind of directly involved at the very beginning, but it's a much more elegant system than Europa. Even though I had issues with the markers and the counters and things they should have put on the counters and stuff like that, it's still a much more elegant system than Europa. I think Perfidious Albion, I think that's true. But I expect that part of the background and documentation is specifically to answer that exact question. So, very exciting game, and really, this is really the last game I needed on the topic, I think. And it's a very all inclusive package, right? I mean, it's the whole series. They're talking about expansions for it too. Which, oh, jeez. Which, hey, cool, give me expansions. Just disintegrating off the counter sheet here. I went to pick the counters up again, and a huge selection of counters fell out of it. As I mentioned in the unboxing video, I would rather this happen than have to tear the counters out of the sheets. All right, I think I got everything. I think we're good. Because that is and that's a thing I've had to do from time to time, and that just sucks. Nobody wants to do that. Maybe I should have scanned the counter sheets first. All right, I feel like I missed something here when I dropped there they are. Oh, we almost lost the Belgians. So I've played Persian Gulf, and it is actually pretty neat to kind of see how that conflict develops using the card play. It's actually pretty neat. There may have been OB updates here. I'm not sure. I know that there were major OB updates in the new NATO. Apparently, another thing that was tried was the Caterpillar drives, but they couldn't get it to actually work. And I think it was the U.S. doing that, not the Soviets. But Eric says they're working on Manchurian Front plus a few others. Yeah, I mean, I'm all aboard for expansions to this. Hopefully, it will be kept in print basically forever. I'd be happy with that. I kind of expected to have streaming problems tonight because my wife is literally streaming downstairs right now. So if we're not having problems, then I'm happy. Yep, Stigler is in the house at last. Sacred Oil. Yeah, I'm guessing, John, I'm guessing you're going to find a taker on that. I've got mine, of course, but I will probably bring things to sell. I don't know what we'll sell. But because I'm driving, by the way, the car is going back to the shop tomorrow, so we're going to get that figured out. I saw the Cuban thing happening at Compass Expo as well. So, like I said, happy to pick up expansions for this, particularly if they come in their own boxes, and I don't have to put them in this box. So, Doug mentions that anti-submarine missiles are faster than anybody's torpedoes, which is, of course, correct. Belgium. Yeah, we have no immediate plans to play the 1985 series, but I do expect that will occur at some point. So, because we've got enough, fans of the topic here locally, that I think will want to take another crack at it. But one of our guys who is very into the topic is or was playing a game of Under an Iron Sky, and he said he didn't like it. But I don't. There's a lot of variables that go into not liking it. Maybe you just suck. So. We got Mujahideen. Okay, a lot going on here. We got Kurds, Mujahideen. There's a lot of factions in the Middle East, as you'd expect, frankly. Panza says contemporary naval warfare is incredibly complicated, and he wants wishes all the best for people trying to design. So, what do you think of the Compass, not Blue Water Navy, which is supposed to be pretty good, but the South China Sea stuff? Because I've got that stuff, and it looks pretty good. It's pretty simple, though. So Jeff Beeler points out, this is a legit question, but remember, so he mentions that GDW's Third World War says Iraq's armed forces are much smaller than what they historically invaded Kuwait with. There's a decent Iraqi army, actually. But that might be true. But remember when this came out, right? This came out in 1986. So, that was not yet obvious. And I don't know if that's been addressed here. I mean, I don't have the old games here to compare them to. There might be a bigger Iraqi army here. I'll let somebody else speak to that. Yes, South China Sea looks good, and it's not super duper complicated either. Okay. No units to the game except for the F-117. So, I know that they didn't want to clutter. I mean, it's a good game, right? I know that it was considered undesirable, Canadians, to make a bunch of huge changes that would then require, their own play testing and all that stuff. And I am very sympathetic to that statement. I am happy it is back in print and people can get it again without paying $1 billion. So that I think is more important. Afghanistan would be interesting. We have Afghan communist units in this game, in fact. Nordic Maelstrom asks about entry-level World War II game. So are we talking about like a game about a campaign, a game about a battle, a game about all of World War II? Because you're going to get a very different answer based on what the subject. And then if it's all of World War II, is it all of World War II in Europe and the Pacific? Because that's tough to handle. And almost every game that does that is not what I would describe as entry-level. Yep, Perfidious Albion, that is exactly what, Canadians. That is exactly what I am saying. I am delighted that it is again available in a greatly improved graphically, format, to say the least. I mentioned this in the video, and it's a little bit, me trying to be funny and, maybe being a little snarkier than I wanted to be. But it's kind of true, is that, for the 1970s, GDW's maps were really good. But unfortunately, some of those games were released in the 1980s when they're not as good. And the Third World War maps do not look very good nowadays, to be honest. I mean, we've mentioned before that I think there's more World War II games released each year than on every other wargame topic combined. So, I mean, I'll be happy to list you a bunch of World War II games, but I don't think that's probably what you're asking for. Yeah, you could start with ASL Starter Kit number 1 if you're into tactical, sure. It's simple enough. It's about 20 pages of rules. So it's not like a Monopoly simple, but it's pretty simple. And then you can build on that too. It's ASL, so you can build on that literally till you drop dead. So Charles Latour mentions MMP and the Standard Combat series, of which there are several in print right now. Rostov 41 is a good one to pick up. These are kind of operational games, which I think really have blossomed in the last 20 years. I think in part in response to OCS, but I mean, it's not like, OCS invented operational games or anything like that. There's plenty. Even going back to the 70s. In some cases, even the 60s. Compass is about to re-release the African campaign. That's a new version of the old Jedco African campaign. I think it's got a mount. Am I wrong that it has a mounted map? I thought it did. The new one. So yeah, they released that a couple years ago, and it's coming back. And I say that's pretty introductory. Standard Combat just means it's their entry level series, Stigler. It's Standard Combat in the sense that it doesn't really use any mechanics that you'd consider unusual, right? It's all, basic, move, combat, mech move, type of turn structure. Some of the games have more to it than that, but in general, it's easy. It's built on really common or standard, if you like, mechanics. So, shipping for Pacific War was $30. Oh my goodness. Was that to the UK, though? I mean, I'm not surprised by that. So there's a huge number. The Rings of Power trailer commercial dropped during, the other thing. And they released like a series of character posters, and then Vanity Fair or Empire, I think, had some explanations to some of those stills, some actual production stills. Let me put it that way. Some of the production stills looked fantastic, and some of the production stills did not look as fantastic. They're making a lot of it up, but that doesn't mean it will be terrible, right? One of the criticisms of, Wheel of Time is that, it just didn't have that big of a budget. Well, this can't make that complaint, right? We can't say, oh, they just didn't have enough money, because they're spending like $1 billion on this thing. So, well, I guess they charged me already for shipping. I hope they did. But my box is going to be like, assuming they ship everything together, my box is going to be like 40 pounds. So, okay, Nordic Maelstrom asks about games that involve the PTO specifically, like the battles. So even PTO, I mean, are we talking naval stuff? And if you want a battle game, so if you want the PTO as a whole, as a synthetic whole, then you might look at that new Fire in the Sky from, I think, Phalanx. And I recommend that. I haven't played that. I have played Empire of the Sun, which is a phenomenal game. and which I think if you're particularly interested in the PTO. So here's the thing, and we've talked about introductory games and what makes an introductory game. There's a number of different variables on what makes a game a good introductory game and a bad introductory game. One of those variables, but only one, is how complicated the game is. Another one of those variables is how hard is the game to get. Is it a 60-year-old out of print, artifact? Because if it is, then it's probably not a good... You got to be able to actually get the introductory game, right? Which is why I'm always irritated when people say, I need a good introductory game on this, and somebody recommends some nonsense from the 1972 that's been out of print since 1972. It's like, man, this is like a $200 game if you buy this thing on the secondary market, and it's got like 30 counters in it. So no, that's not a good choice. But the biggest factor in what makes a game a great introductory game or not is how interested you are in the subject, okay? So if you are especially interested in the Pacific War, even though it is more complicated than Fire in the Sky, I can't recommend Empire of the Sun strongly enough. It is a phenomenal game. Bluntly, I am willing to assume, not having played Fire in the Sky, that it is a better game than Fire in the Sky. I might be wrong about that. If somebody wants to argue with me, feel free. But I might not be wrong about that. So, what are these? Italians? Yes. Let's see. Did I get all the Italians? Apparently not. So I mean, if you're that interested in the whole Pacific War, then Empire of the Sun. If you want the land battles of Guadalcanal, Tarawa, and Okinawa, then I think your best entry level path is the ASL starter kit path, which means you go by ASL starter kit number 1, number 2, number 3, and then number 4 brings you the PTO with scenarios that include things like Guadalcanal. So. Jeff Beeler, I've played Conflict of Heroes Guadalcanal specifically. In fact, that is the Conflict of Heroes that I have played. And it's not terrible, but I wasn't crazy about it, and I didn't go buy it afterwards. Let me put it that way. Okay, so Nordic Maelstrom P500 is GMT's pre-order system, right? So what happens is you go to their website and you say, here, you look at their list of things available for pre-order or P500 and you say, Pacific War, this looks awesome. I'm going to pre-order this. And then you put in an order for it and you give them your credit card number and all that. But they don't charge you yet. They don't charge you until the game is almost ready to ship. The typical delay between I got charged and I got the game runs about 4 to 8 weeks, I'd say. So they basically charge you when they have confirmation that it's hit the docks and they're going to get it in a couple of days or whatever, or a couple of weeks in this case. So you won't be charged until they're close to shipping it. Now, Multi-Man Publishing, which does, they don't call it P500 or anything like that, but it works almost exactly the same way. They take your credit card number, they don't charge you until the game is almost ready to ship. But the time between Multi-Man charging you and they start shipping is usually no more than a week. Also, Multi-Man ships in order that the orders were received. So if you got your order in as number 6, then you're going to get your thing very soon compared to where everybody else is in the queue, right? GMT doesn't do that. Somebody has explained to me the way GMT does it, and I'm not going to explain it here because I don't want to misrepresent them, but it is essentially random. They randomly determine whose orders they are going to ship first, which is random. And I don't know why, but it does appear to be official GMT policy to ship my order last, regardless of what it is. So I'm being a little sore about that. Yeah, the ASL starter kits, the first 3 are quite cheap too. The 4th one is more expensive, but it's got a lot more stuff in it. And in both cases, right, and they're not the only companies that do this. In both cases, for pre-ordering, you get a decent discount on the price of the game, right? So there's that. Certainly there are plenty of GMT P500 games that have not made the cut, but most new games that end up on P500 do eventually make the cut. There have been some exceptions to that. Reprints are a little dicier, but all right, we got Norwegians, and then we're done clipping for the night. So, yeah, one of the things that's coming is Into the Woods, which is a very exciting Battle of Shiloh, great battles of the American Civil War game. Somebody just said something about GCACW. Nathan Lander just bought his first GCACW game recently, Hood Strikes North. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I've got some playthrough of Great Campaigns of the American Civil War as well, so check that out. However, if you want good playthrough content on the great battles of the great campaigns of the American Civil War system, then check out Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials. Can't recommend that highly enough. Just tons and tons and tons of playthrough content. And some tutorial stuff too. So, and it's called P500 because at least the original intention was that they needed 500 people to commit to buying it to actually go ahead with a print run. In recent years, that has begun to kind of fall apart as the number of games that have hit their number but are nevertheless nowhere near actually getting published has just kind of grown and grown and grown. And, you know, it's a challenging situation for them. Doug asks, is anyone doing World War II ETO operational single map games that can be played in a single sitting anymore? Yes, GMT is, the Mark Simonich games. Now, not all of those are single sitting games, and the ones that are long single sitting games, but you can absolutely play Holland 44 and Normandy 44 in one sitting. Salerno 43, which is the next one, which will be showing up with the Mother Lode, with Pacific War and Into the Woods and all that other stuff. That looks pretty small. It's on like a not full-sized map, so you'll easily be able to play that in a single sitting, I believe. So the SL starter kits are kind of congenitally out of print, because they print them, and then a month later they're out of print again. So you know, you can imply that's a criticism of Multiman's print numbers, and I don't know what the answer is, right? I presume that there's a reason that they only print 5 copies at a time, and I don't know what that reason is. But I presume there is a reason that they only print 5 copies at a time, and they print it, and a month later, it's out of print again. So I am exaggerating slightly for dramatic effect, but only slightly. I don't know if he's got every scenario, but he's got a lot. The Norwegians have, it looks like about 20, something like that. Stalingrad 42 is excellent. So John Longshore asks, how does Stalingrad 42 or Ukraine? So Ukraine 43 I don't own and haven't played. So, but it uses that like family system, right? So I don't think it's radically different. Panzer Group Guderian is a really old and innovative system. Okay, so I think it's probably not incredibly fair to compare the two, because one is really innovative but also really old. There are some novel mechanics in the Simonich series, and I think they are absolutely worth your time. The signature mechanics there is the Zoc bond, which is not going to be used in the new North Africa game, by the way. but it's that Perfidious Albion actually has it right. What Stalingrad 42 is Case Blue played on 3 maps instead of 10. So that is absolutely right. United Arab Emirates, Sweden. As an ASL, somebody that, that does buy ASL stuff and is a fan, Stigler is not incredibly wrong. There is a certain cultishness about ASL. Absolutely accurate. So Stigler just knows what he likes. I can respect that. All right, so we're up to 3 trays so far, and we got about half the units clipped. So it might be a little more than that. We got all the Warsaw Pact stuff clipped and some of the NATO stuff, the NATO and neutral stuff. So are we going to? Yeah, I think we are. So why not? Don't know. I do want to watch the Rings of Power thing. So, I am, who knows, right? It might be good. It might be terrible. Who knows? It's certainly their big, Amazon's big plan to have a Game of Thrones. Not in terms of, hey, we've got tits every week, but in terms, because they've said it's going to be PG-13. But in terms of, a huge cultural force, we'll see if they can do that. There's a certain amount of, authentic Tolkien material that they're using as the basis of that, but they're also making rather a lot up. And from what I gather, they are compressing the timeline to basically have the show cover the entire Second Age in kind of one series, right? So, which, into the span of a human lifetime or 2. Not a huge fan of that idea, but we'll see how it works out. The rumor is that the first 2 episodes will basically be the story of the First Age, okay? So, if that's accurate, and if they nail that, then that by itself will go a huge part of the way toward making that series very palatable to me. So we'll see. We will see. Iggy says he also plays Starfleet Battles, which is also it's a life. It's not just ASL, right? And we've talked about this before. It's lifestyle games, right? It is a game that a lot of the people who play it, that's the game they play, right? It is the hobby to them. It's why when you say, that's why people talk about the Games Workshop hobby, right? Rather than 40K as part of a larger, fantasy, sci-fi, whatever, miniatures hobby, right? It's the Games Workshop hobby. Because there's enough to it that people can just play that and feel like they're having a satisfying experience. And I'm not going to tell those people that they're wrong, but it can come off such that those communities can look really insular and shuttered and in a silo. It is possible for that to happen. And that's certainly true of ASL. I mean, I frankly think that ASL is still the dominant format for the tactical scale. At least, what's bigger than ASL at the tactical level? I mean, you've got to kind of branch out to, Memoir 44. I mean, maybe it's certainly popular. In terms of sales numbers, it's probably bigger. I don't know, but I don't know that there's a Memoir 44 convention anywhere. And there's like 20 ASL conventions that are like ASL conventions. That's what they play there. So, Doug, I am probably going to agree with your opinion on that. Farshad Diazi, first of all, welcome to the stream, asked about a First World War air combat dogfighting game. Is the miniatures thing called Wings of Glory? Yeah, I'd look at that, to be honest. I mean, I can recommend older Hex Encounter-based World War I games, Richthofen's War, Dawn Patrol, which was a later version of a game called Fight in the Skies, a Mike Carr game. There's other examples as well, I'm sure. There's the new Western Front Ace that's coming out, Solitaire game from Gregory M. Smith. That might be worth your time. I have a pretty high opinion of Greg's designs, and I expect that to be pretty fun. Blue Max is another one. That was from GDW. Wings of Glory is the one with the miniatures, the pre-painted little miniatures. Honestly, if I was going to play a World War I dogfighting game, I'd probably want to play a miniatures game. And Wings of Glory is, I don't know what it would cost you to start playing Wings of Glory, I have to admit. It is one of those things that you can spend $1 gazillion on if you want, but I don't know that you necessarily need to. Old Lady Plays, thanks for stopping by. Great channel that she runs. Please check that out. I think you can click on her name in the chat and go to her channel. I think that works. I could be wrong. Do I have it up? Can we do that? No, that doesn't work. Never mind. No, that doesn't work. Forget it. But search for Old Lady Plays. She's doing a lot of cool stuff. So. Now, if I wanted to do like a World War II air combat game, I'd probably want a Hex Encounter game. And that is reflective of my, and I'm not considering buying Wings of Glory, by the way, just because, again, I don't have the bandwidth to do that. I don't have the bandwidth for the stuff that I have. Nordic Maelstrom says he or she estimates the starting cost at probably $100 to $120. That sounds right to me. I mean, I don't know what the starter set looks like, so. I do know that it's popular, and we see it played at Origins every year. So, New Belgium's pretty good, actually. Air Force. I've got Air Force, and in fact, if I do an like a World War II dogfighting game, that's probably the game I'm going to play. If I want a more operational game, then I have a couple of different options. And I do have a couple of games in that space. Although neither are really dogfighting games. I have the Burning Blue, and I have the John Butterfield. In fact, below me. All right. RAF, which I think Old Lady Plays may have done, actually. Somebody did RAF, and I haven't played this yet, but it looks pretty good. You could play this Solitaire or 2 players. Solitaire as the British or Solitaire as the Germans. There's an earlier John Butterfield Battle of Britain game called Battle Over Britain, which was a Spitzer game, which I also have, and which actually looks fairly interesting, so at some point I'd like to play that as well. And then I have... I'm not really that into dogfighting games, but I do have Air Force. I got a copy in that big bequeathal thing that happened a couple of years ago. That's a very good playthrough series that Old Lady Plays did, by the way. So if you want to see RAF played on a playthrough videos, go check those out. John Longshore, the game you're talking about is Ace of Aces. And that's still around, and that's supposed to be fun, but that's not really my style. Dan loves it, though. So, Mustangs and Messerschmitts. There's also that thing, I forget what the series is called, but Wings Over the Motherland is a recent entry in the series from Clash of Arms. Fighting Wings might be the name of the series. That actually looks fairly interesting, and it's East Front. And it's more of it's not really a dogfighting game either. Eric asks, what's the name of the company that makes the Napoleonic games on my shelf? So these are the Library of Napoleonic Battles from the Operational Studies Group, or OSG, designed by Kevin Zucker. I think their website is napoleongames.com. So I do really want to play Burning Blue, I have to tell you. So it's part of that bequeathal thing where, you know, a friend of a friend passed away and left the friend games, and they like sold some of them, but they're like, hey, we got like these 5 boxes of games. You want them? Sure. One of the things in there was a copy of Dauntless, which in the Avalon Hill version was an expansion for Air Force. I think in the Battle Line original, I just found out that Battle Line was a division of Heritage, which was a partner of TSR back to the very early days, which is a whole interesting thing. Read, you know, John Peterson stuff about that. But Dauntless in the Avalon Hill edition was an expansion for Air Force. And I'm like, well, crap, I don't have Air Force. So I went and I'm like, it can't be that expensive. So I found a copy on eBay for a reasonable price. It's in great shape, unpunched and all that stuff. And it gets here and I'm like, cool, I open it up and there's a copy of Dauntless inside too. So I have 2 copies of Dauntless. So, oops. I think Old Lady Plays has been on my channel of the week before, but maybe not because she may be over 1,000 subscribers. And by the time I got to her, she was over 1,000. And that's my rule. Air War by SPI. Yeah, that's a good call. Was that a modern, though? I thought it was. I could be wrong about that. And, of course, there's Downtown, which is Vietnam-era operational air game from GMT. And I think there's talk about it. That goes for big dollars on the secondary market right now. But I think there's talk about redoing that at some point. Ooh, that sounds... Peter Bergs, thanks for stopping back by. That sounds like a lot to swallow, actually. And Stigler says that Fighting Wings and Air Superiority. So Air Superiority, as I recall, was from GDW, are more complicated than Air War was. Air War had a reputation for being super complicated, though. I'm covered on dogfights, to be honest. I probably would like a World War I dogfighting game, too, at some point, but if I do anything, it's likely to be Wings of Glory, and I'm likely to not buy it. I'm likely to find a friend who has it already and play with theirs. I will be satisfied. I am generally satisfied with that kind of behavior. Axis and Allies Air War. Okay. I think I've seen that. Yeah. It's probably fine in a very simple way. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, if you want a simple game, go find a simple game. Cool. Yeah, Perfidious Albion's still talking about the Burning Blue, I think, which he's exactly right. He or she is exactly right. The anticipation of where the German raids are going, you have to kind of be flexible in terms of, you don't know where the Germans are going to hit. Now, Burning Blue is a 2-player game, and a lot of what it does in that respect is absolutely simulated in RAF. So, given that Burning Blue is out of print, goes for a reasonable chunk of cabbage, I would probably, and RAF is in print and also is relatively expensive, but at least it's new. I would say that I'd recommend RAF right now, certainly over the Burning Blue, just because of its flexibility. It does that whole simulation of what Perfidious Albion just mentioned, plus you can play it solitary as either side or play it 2-player, and Burning Blue is a lot of hidden information, and it's maybe not the most effective experience played solitaire. I did play Dawn Patrol back in the day. I bought it thinking it was a role-playing game, and it's kind of like a semi-RPG. by the standards of the time. But so was Boot Hill, really. It was really a miniatures game, and or counters on a map game that had some RPG elements to it. And that was true even of the second edition Boot Hill, frankly. What edition of Dawn Patrol I had, I have the vaguest idea. I remember the box, but I don't know what edition it was. I looked up Boot Hill not that long ago. I thought I had the first edition. It was not. It was the second edition. Yeah, it looks like a great game. That's why I picked it up. It's from Stigler's favorite game publisher, Decision Games. Highly recommended by him. That is a characteristic feature of John Butterfield's Solitaire games. They tend to be very tough to win. That's definitely true of like the D-Day at Omaha Beach and Palilli, which are the two I played. Boy, Peter Berg's, I mean, that's a completely valid statement where you would just rather play a flight sim on the PC, but that's a 100% different experience, right? It is, and I've never actually played IL-2 Stormovik, but it's got a good reputation, and I've got a flight stick. I've got 2 flight sticks, so I mean, I'd be cool with trying it, but that's a completely different experience than a board game of any kind. Lateral rudder roll. Interesting. So I did get the cards for, speaking of Cold War gone hot, I did get the cards from the Game Crafter for Red Storm, the SAM cards and the aircraft cards. And I'm really happy with them. They haven't been put in the box yet because my boxes are all in boxes right now. So we'll eventually get to that. So another thing that showed up, the big thing that showed up this week was, of course, Third World War. Another thing that showed up, and I've talked about this in some of the Traveler videos, Cepheus Deluxe. I may do a video leafing through Cepheus Deluxe. So what this is when Mongoose took Traveler over, they released most of the Traveler rules in an OGL format, right? So this is like there's an open license to do this. And what the Cepheus engine is it kind of pairs, kind of rebuilds that from the ground up to a level of detail comparable to Classic Traveler. And then Cepheus Deluxe gives you a little more than that and is closer to the Mongoose Traveler First Edition. It looks really good, other than that the page registration, and I'm not going to demand a refund over this, but you can see that the page registration is a little bit off up here, for example, where the top header thing's cut off. Other than that, and this is a print on demand, ordered through DriveThruRPG. The printer was Lightning Source, which I think handles all of DriveThruRPG's print on demand stuff. Other than that, I'm real happy with the book. I bought this because this kind of unleashes me from having to deal with, if I want to turn this into something, by making heavy modifications to the system, which is a thing that I'm thinking about, then this is a better platform to do that from than Mongoose's version. If you just want to play it out of the book, then Mongoose's version, I think, is the superior alternative, for reasons I'm not going to describe tonight. So the other thing is, most of this stuff is available in PDF. You can get certain things in print, and I ordered that, the PDF print combo, and it took him about a month to get it to me, something like that. Jeff Beeler, I haven't tried. I have an unboxing of Defending America, I believe. America Bomber I didn't get. So there's plenty of bombing games. There's what was that one called from GMT? So you've got the Doolittle Raid game and the two Enemy Coast Ahead games, which are both bomber games. You've got that night bombing game that GMT did. There's at least a couple. Plus you have there's kind of a million of them at this point, especially if you're talking about solitaire ones. I can't actually dig these up, but Target for Today, Target for Tonight from Legion Wargames. Those are solitaire games in the vein of B-17 Queen of the Skies. Old Lady Places box set of Traveler with all 6 books. So that would have been the deluxe, I'd imagine. 6 books? Was there 6 in there? Yeah, I think there might have been. 6 in a map, as I recall. At some point, when I get this area cleaned up, and I have actually made a lot of progress lately. When I get this area cleaned up, we'll have all the Traveler stuff here, and at some point I will do a video of me sitting in front of my giant wall of Traveler stuff, as opposed to sitting in front of my giant wall of Wargames. So Hissy Cat Studios, so there's Target for today, which is like American bombers in Western Europe, and there's Target for tonight, which is mostly Lancasters. So, or Lancasters. And Luftwaffe, that's true. That was a lot of people cut their teeth on Luftwaffe and Richthofen's War from Avalon Hill back in the day. Both, I think, pretty early 70s game, or maybe even late 60s. I don't have an opinion on the Hornet Leader series, though that eventually I think either went to DVG because it's a Dan Verson design, or it evolved into the Leader series from DVG, which has a lot of fans, but I have no familiarity with that stuff. The only DVG product I own, and maybe have ever owned, is Field Commander Napoleon, which I have an enormously high opinion of, for the record. But it's, it's a very different game than any air games that they may have done. So, John Longshore says he can't play air games due to his fear of heights. I actually have a pretty severe fear of heights. So I used to climb trees and stuff as a kid. I thought nothing of it. And I never really fell and broke my face open or anything like that. And boy, it's hard to even get me up on a ladder nowadays. If I'm more than about 3 feet off the ground, I'm like, this sucks. I don't want to do this. So, lots of Henry Sikorsky, thanks for stepping back by. If you haven't been here the entire time, and maybe you have been. So we have it's almost 10 o'clock. So we topped out at 77 people tonight. And I'm pretty sure that's going to probably be our height. We're about 56 right now. Considering that, in my hubris, we went up against the other thing tonight, I think that's pretty good. So I am reasonably happy to say, hey, we still have 77 people watching, even though we were against the other thing. So it's all good. So what's happening this week? So we do have the show with Dan tomorrow. No, it's not tomorrow. I keep thinking it's Monday. So Monday, no show tomorrow. Okay, so normal Monday show. That's tonight. Which is another reason why, we may not have had the normal draw, but we also have a, big football game happening. So, why does this not work? So we have the stream with Dan. I'm just trying to figure out whether that's here or at Dan's place this week. I think it's here. And that is on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday we play War in the Desert. On Thursday we play what looks like is going to be Third Winter. So the Tuesday night show, which again used to be the Wednesday show, now it's the Tuesday show. It's here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we have the unbox. There might be more video this week. I don't know, but there might not be because there's going to be plenty of video next week. So, minimally, however, the Third World War unboxing is Thursday at 10 a.m. So take note of that. And for those who wonder about what's going to happen tomorrow specifically, I'll talk about it on Tuesday. There's things I can't talk about tonight because she's downstairs. So we'll figure it out. So that'll actually work out. The Tuesday show being here will work out that way. Dan can handle it next week when I'm traveling. So, which we'll be doing that live from Winterfest as well. So, they're not allowed to say the dirty words here, apparently. So, Boy, that is coming down pretty. It is pretty close, though, huh? Leave it to the Bengals. Anyway. Well, it's an honor just to be nominated, right? So anyway, so thanks everybody for stopping by. I am sure we will have some talk in the next show. So again, next week we're going to be on the road. Okay, it's going to be the regular Monday show, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be on the road. I don't know if it's going to be a 2-hour show. It might be a 1-hour show. It might be a 3-hour show. Who knows? I might have other people just sit down and talk for a half an hour. That might actually happen. So I don't have like a firm format for that in mind. So Farshad asks, what is the ASL of the air combat genre? Wings of Glory, probably. And I mean, they're not comparable in any way other than that's the most popular game in the space. Wings of Glory, I would say, is the game. So, once again, though, thanks everybody for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Looks like the other thing's over. I really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate folks, especially coming out tonight. I would like to thank the patrons. Particular shout out tonight because I got a green screen stand which I was actually going to use tonight behind me, and it's doesn't work. I mean, it works, but it's too the actual green screen that I have is not big enough. That's my problem. So we'll be working on that. But I got a stand for it now, and now I just got to get another bigger green screen. And I got the lavalier mic to travel with, so the patrons have made that possible. So I would like to say thanks again once again. So please do give the video a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel. Click the little bell dealio so you get notifications when the new content comes out and all that jazz. That really helps me with the algorithm. Please do comment on the videos. Just be nice about it, right? Don't be a tool like that one dude. And get the video pulled. And check out the stream tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Tuesday, 7:30 Eastern, and on Thursday the scheduled video, the unboxing video, and we'll see if there's going to be more videos coming this week. It really depends on exactly how much time I have to edit videos because everything needs to get done. Also, the green screen, I wasn't 100% thrilled with the way some of the fuzziness around my shoulders wasn't really working. So. And that's true. I got games in the background. It's not like I got some, wasteland behind me. So it's all good. So once again, thanks everybody for stopping by. And we'll see you all again on Tuesday.